Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we get in a car and drive to New Orleans in like 5 days. I'm actually like, this is going to sound sarcastic. I'm actually really looking forward to it. This is going to be super fun. I'm legitimately excited to get to go and cover a college football playoff semifinal for the second time in 12 months.
Yeah, we got the notice the other day that, yes, you too have been approved for credentials. And I got the notice at like midnight Monday night. And I was knowing that I would be getting one, hoping that we would get a photo credential for you. Or assuming I would get one, hoping for you. And then we both got them. And I was going to text you, but like I said, it was like midnight. And I know you go to bed at like 8:30 because you got to get up at like 6.
And then when I got up at 6, I don't have to get up at 6. I'm just blessed to get up at 6 because I have children in my home. And then when I get up at 6 and I email you back all excited, yay, we got credentialed. I know 4 hours or so from now, Tony's going to wake up and see this and go, yes, agreed, hooray. Now, when you were hoping for me to get a photo pass, was that so you don't have to sit next to me in the press box? Or were you hoping that I'd be able to take photos? What was, the motivation behind your joy?
I like having you in the press box because then we can talk, and I know who I'm going to be talking to because, as you know, I do a lot of talking during the game. It's just like I don't know. It's like I bet Justin Fields throws it here, or I'll hand it off. I'll sound smart. And if you're not there, but now we're like so spread out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to like just talk back and forth because in the Big Ten championship game, you are shoulder to shoulder in the press box. And this past year, we were at least like 6-8 feet between people, and it's some nice elbow room. But the chatting is left to a bit of a minimum. You have to kind of talk loudly, which again is not an issue for people on the Ohio State beat.
No, some of them get yelled at in games against Clemson in the press box. This has been a very weird year because normally, we're up there and we're around people and obviously we're talking to each other, but we also we're friends with a bunch of other people on the beat. So we'll turn and talk to whoever's on the other side of us. And now it's like you turn and talk to someone and they've got earphones in because they're listening to something, or they're typing and it's like, what, who? It's like, and if you're talking to someone who's 2 seats down from you, it's like you practically need a megaphone. So it's been a little different this year, but that's okay. But maybe we'll see them outside the football stadium. Who's to say?
There you go. And so at least we'll be there. We'll be, all kinds of coverage leading up to it, some fun stuff on the way there, certainly some fun stuff while we're there, even content-wise. Maybe.
We might even do some work. Who's to say? Marcus, as soon as Mark listens to this, we'll know that Marcus listened to this because we'll get a text. Hey, you guys are buckle down.
Yeah, exactly. You guys haven't turned out any content yet, and the game has been over for 3 days. Are you guys okay? What game?
What? Who?
But I hear it's pretty muted in New Orleans right now, and the Bourbon Street and all of that, and some of the bars are like 25% capacity, and they close at 11, and so they're going to force us to work.
The universe is making your life choices for you. That's good. That's good. That's probably a good thing for you and for the listeners.
Yeah, yes. Keep that in mind. Take that to heart and be like, you know what? I guess maybe I don't need to, double fist all the way from one place to the other up and down the street. Maybe I should just go home and wake up in the morning.
Or you'll think, I better get started early. Forget it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 2:30, man. Like, what are you still working for?
Yeah. Tom, do we want to get to the second part of our Q&A? That way, people have something to listen to today. And because we have to stop talking so that we can finish the recording.
Talking. Yeah, right? We have to stop talking so we can start talking. So then eventually we can stop talking again.
Perfect.
All right, first one from our buddy at SunCard19. Is there any chance they line Wade up at slot corner so he can blitz Lawrence? Since the game won't be played on skates this year, is there any chance Clemson can win? And if you don't remember last year's game, the footing on the field at the Fiesta Bowl was not fantastic. The grass at the this is an artificial turf field, obviously the Superdome. Out in Glendale, it's grass. It's cut super short. It's almost like a putting green, like that short. And then once you have a stadium full of people and it's relatively cool out, all those people breathing gets all this condensation on the grass, and then you just slide your foot across the grass, and it's like ice. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Even before the game, it was kind of slippery, and then towards the end of the game, it was like, oh man, that was. I remember right before the game ending interception, I think I tweeted a video of me sliding my foot on the grass, like this is how slippery it is right now. And then Chris Olave broke one way and kind of slipped, and Nolan Turner broke another way, and then we got to go home, and we didn't have to go to New Orleans. So yeah, so that's the footing. I don't know if the footing is going to make a material difference, but I don't think they're moving Wade inside. Do you?
I don't, because then the problem is, who do you put outside? But if they were like, in terms of the blitzing, the corner blitzing this year has been bad. It's been a waste. We know Shaun Wade is a pretty good blitzer. We also know that Clemson's best receiver is Amari Rodgers, their slot guy. He leads them in catches, leads them in yards. Had a big week against Notre Dame in the ACC championship game last week. So while I don't think it's a terrible idea to match up your best corner with the best receiver, but I don't know what you do outside then. Do you put Marcus Williamson outside? Do you bring in Tyreek Johnson, who they are, kind of don't want to play? Certainly don't want to put a freshman out there. So it's almost like you just keep it as it is and then give Williamson some help, because I think that's an area where Clemson is going to be able to take advantage. It's not been a great year for Marcus Williamson, and now he's going against, I guess, the best slot receiver he's seen this year, and certainly the best quarterback. So those two things may not go well together. But Tom, there would be time to just move some things around if they wanted to. I don't expect it, but I don't think it's out of this. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just don't think the options are available for them to do that.
Yeah, if Cam Brown was still around, I think that's a viable option. But you've got Sevyn Banks outside right now, and then it's like, if you don't trust Marcus Williamson inside, moving Marcus Williamson outside is not going to be good either. So, yeah, they're just one spot short right now. Like, they really need Cam Brown for this game, and they don't have him. And with the freshmen not having gotten the reps that they normally would have gotten, and Legend Cavazos having been banged up a bunch this year anyway, and just a bunch of practice. I mean, he's not where he would have been for a couple different reasons during a normal year. So yeah, there's just that. I think, that goes right towards the top of my list of concerns for Ohio State in this game is, who covers Amari Rodgers? Because if the other team's best player, or one of the other opposing team's best players anyway, Trevor Lawrence also pretty good. Travis Etienne also pretty good. But yeah, if the opposing slot receiver is going against a slot corner who you don't have a super amount of faith in, that's an issue waiting to happen. So they're going to have to, Ohio State's going to have to solve that one scheme wise, probably, rather than moving personnel around kind of wise.
Yep.
Next one from our buddy Marcus Hartman at Marcus Hartman of the Dayton Daily News. Gumbo or jambalaya? I have a strong opinion here, but do you have a strong opinion?
Well, I have a strong opinion in that gumbo is, while it's great, it's still just a soup.
Mm-hmm.
And jambalaya is a meal. And so yes, if you have an option between soup and a meal, you take the meal. And especially when it's got all kinds of stuff in it. I honestly assume I've had jambalaya at some point. You've had every nationality has their own version of it, whether it's like goulash or paella, and it's all good, and it's all just meat, rice, spices, sauce, whatever. So yeah, I'm looking forward to jambalaya. I'll have to figure out how much is coming out of our pockets for certain meals and how much is coming out of the any type of per diem, because the bowls do provide food, but this year it's just going to be grab and go. And Tom, I don't think they're going to do grab and go jambalaya,
which is really too bad. Like, this is absolutely one of those towns where it's like, man, I can't wait to go down there and just eat all the great food. It's like, I'm not sure a cardboard box of gumbo is going to work out great. I don't think. I'm not like a material scientist, but that just doesn't seem like it's going to work out fantastic. So yeah, we'll probably eat a few meals away from the media center, because yeah, everywhere we've gone this year, the media food has been like a lot of kind of sandwiches and that kind of stuff, which I'm sure I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Like, I am not going to complain about any kind of food at any point this year, because it's like I think everyone's having some budget issues, and you have some convenience factor issues and some limitations on what you can serve and the way you have to serve things. So, but yeah, I will probably be efforting some. We'll probably be efforting some po' boys and jambalaya while we were down there for sure.
I wonder the grab and go meals, since like New Orleans, it's open carry in terms of alcohol. Do they also like send some drink?
What kind of lunch are we having?
Do they also like send drinks with you as well? Do you get a hurricane with your po' boy?
Oh man, if they have those in the press box, it is going to be a feisty post game show.
Imagine the arguments that some people could get into in the press box with a gigantic, plastic slash beating stick.
Audio subtweets, the best kind of subtweets. Next from at Forthright Fits. Will the Ohio State defensive line create enough pressure to help the back end slow down Clemson's passing attack? I mean, it's going to have to. We just went through the back end, and it's like, yeah, they're at least one player short and maybe two players short. And Clemson's coaches have probably watched the film. Debos, when he said it did not take them very long to go through the film since there were only 6 games, I'm going to guess that they have identified the defensive backfield as a potential source of weakness for Ohio State. I think you might see a bunch of 4-wide formations from Clemson to try and get as many defensive backs on the field, because once things thin out a little bit, it's like, oh boy. So do you try and put a linebacker on one of those wide receivers? Do you throw out one of the defensive backs you're not real confident in? Like, what do you do? It is going to be on that defensive line. If Ohio State, and that's worth mentioning, when I had Matt Connolly on the Morning Scoop on Tuesday morning, he was the beat writer for the state newspaper in Columbia, South Carolina, covers Clemson. I asked him, where are the areas where Clemson's better than last year? Where are the areas and they're worse than last year? Offensive line was one of the areas where they're worse. So the recipe for a win for Ohio State is probably dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Because if the pass rush can't get there, and and they're forcing those defensive backs to cover 4 seconds, that's not going to work. They have to generate a pass rush. They have to get Lawrence under pressure. They do not have the ability to bring 6 guys to do it, because then you're pretty shorthanded in the defensive backfield. So they're gonna live and die with that defensive line, I think.
Yeah, and when you're talking about schematically helping Marcus Williamson, a lot of that starts up front. That's where the pass rush or the pass defense starts, is with that defensive line. But you're talking about spreading Ohio State out like 4 wides, and then you spread the defense out, and then you can run it with Travis Etienne against a depleted box, or attack defensive backs that Ohio State's maybe not comfortable with having out there. And you mentioned that thing, and it's like, well, you're right. I mean, Ohio State will have they'll take one of their better players off, being a linebacker. They'll be putting out who knows. You'll have Marcus Hooker, I assume, will be back. Josh Proctor, and then Marcus Williamson, along with the 2 corners, and that's a concern when you've got Hooker and Williamson out there together, and then knowing that they're still going to be running the ball out of that. And if those guys are just peeking in the backfield a little bit too much, then they could get beaten deep. And also, if Ohio State is turning and running with a bunch of man coverage, Trevor Lawrence could take off. We know he beat them almost single-handedly last year. So maybe there's more zone. Maybe they spend some time mixing in some zones and during the ramp up, and maybe that's another way to help Marcus Williamson and Marcus Hooker as well. I don't think you can just necessarily Ohio State could just go with what they've been doing. You got to change up a little something so that Trevor Lawrence isn't just seeing what he's expecting to see.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to do a bunch of stuff. They're just going to have to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Because there is not a clean, easy answer like there was last year when it was, okay, why don't you have Jeff Okudah and Shaun Wade and Damon Arnett and Jordan Fuller out there, and they'll cover the wide receivers? And it's like, okay, well, they have one of those guys now, and then question mark. So, last year Josh Proctor was the backup plan B guy who they weren't really ready to trust. And now 6 games later, it's like, all right, well, Josh Proctor's the surest bet they have out there outside of Shaun Wade. Like, it's not ideal. The best thing Ohio State can do, looking at the defensive backfield, number 1, get a real good pass rush, get a lot of pressure on Lawrence. Number 2, score 45 points. That is my recommendation. If Ryan Day calls me and says, what should we do? I would say score 45 points and hope that's enough, because this does not seem like a game Ohio State's winning 31-28.
And when he tells you, okay, well, how do we do that? What do you say?
Listen, genius, you're the one getting paid $4 million a year. What are you asking me for? I don't know.
Exactly. Perfect answer, Tom.
Next one from our least favorite listener ever, Langdon Alger. Do you expect Master Teague to start against Clemson? No. What about you?
Let's flesh this out. Let's talk about this. Why don't you?
Let's continue my conversation with Ryan Day. You remember the guy who ran for 331 yards? You should consider starting him and giving him the ball a decent amount until Clemson proves that they will hold him to less than 331 yards, substantially less than 331 yards.
Counterpoint. Trey means 3. Master means master.
Is that a French word?
Langdon, thank you very much for that question. I would not be shocked if Master Teague still starts. I'm not saying it's a good decision. I'm saying I wouldn't be shocked to see it.
I mean, counterpoint. We have seen Master Teague against Clemson.
Yes.
We have seen Trey Sermon against the last team Ohio State played.
Mm-hmm.
So
Trey means 3. Master means master.
So 3 might be. How many drives would you give him before you switch to another running back? I think that might be where Trey comes in. Like maybe give him 3 drives, and you don't have to run the ball 3 times on each set of downs. But
maybe Master gets to start. Trey Sermon comes in on the 3rd play because Tom, Trey means 3, Master means master.
Somehow I like Langdon Alger even less now than I did before. Next one.
Possible.
Next one from @Rick 1960 Impala. Will Clemson be facing an angry Buckeye team? I think probably both teams are going to have a little bit of motivation. I think both coaches have inadvertently, perhaps with a little help from inside their locker room, provided some bulletin board material for the opposing team. Ohio State's probably is a little more genuine than Clemson's, motivation there would be. I mean, Clemson's motivation is get back to the national championship, and Ryan Day said a bad word. Ohio State's motivation is, hey, these guys ended the season for us last year, and also we would like to go to the national championship. And also, there are a lot of people in that. I mean, they have not been super shy about the fact that they feel like they should have won that game, and they gave that game away last year. That has sometimes you'll kind of get these like halfway answers. This year it's like, no, they feel pretty strongly they should have won that game. That's been a big motivation. They have had Clemson kind of circled as a team they thought they were going to play, that they wanted to play again this year. I don't think motivation is going to be in short supply. And I mean, last year Ohio State came out angry, came out fired up, and absolutely beat the brakes off of Clemson for the first about quarter and a half of that game. And really, I mean, physically beat them up throughout the game. And that's something Clemson talked about even after the game. Like, that was as physical a game as they had played, like, period. And they played Alabama a whole bunch. So I don't think motivation is going to be in short order for Ohio State. It's just, it's a matter of, do they have the horses to do it?
I'm not sure that they're going, I would see the Buckeyes more focused rather than angry. The motivation is there, of course. I don't know how angry they are at this point, because they've gone through so much this season and this year, to where, yeah, last year is still on their minds, but they've gone through so much this year and overcome so much this year that I wonder how much anger is still there, or just the motivation is there and the focus is there. I don't know if it's, and maybe we'll talk to them. We'll talk to the Buckeyes maybe on Wednesday, or maybe we have by the time you listen to this. But is this an angry team or is this a focused team? And if it's angry, it's still focused. I think they can be focused without being angry, just motivated.
Yeah, I mean, and there's probably a little bit of a fine line there. I mean, there is, if you are focused in football, you are focused, and with it being as violent a sport as it is, there's a certain amount of anger that is just inherent in the task at hand. And if you are focused on the task at hand, well, that is, some violence is going to come along with that. That is just sort of part and parcel to this whole deal.
You can't run to the ball being like, I'm sorry, I'm doing this.
You can. That would really probably mess with the opponent. Sorry about what's about to happen to you.
I apologize in advance.
At Vincent James 80, how much was Fields' performance a result of his wrist/thumb? How much was it missing Olave / him playing badly? Will the defense play more press next week against Clemson? Let's start with Fields.
I think it's both. Now he started out poorly and was healthy, and there's that. But also he started out and was missing Olave from the outset. So I think it's both. Certainly, when he says after the game, I told the coaches that I can't throw the ball anymore, that's going to affect you. And yet, you still have to try to throw. And there was just some really, really ugly stuff there. But you can't be down Chris Olave and think everything is like it certainly affected. I thought, he would be, I didn't think it would affect him as much as it did. And it clearly did affect him. And he was a completely different quarterback. After the game, hearing that he was injured, you're like, oh, well, that's, at least that's the answer. And then you talk to him after the game. He's like, well, yeah, he wasn't injured early on and yet he was still off. And so I think both of those factors were key. I don't know, is it 60-40, 50-50? I think it's probably, 85-15 once he was hurt that, it's the thumb.
Yeah. I mean, he was off early enough, like noticeably off right away. And it was just kind of like, huh. And that is all Olave, I think, or, all Olave / what Northwestern was doing and just not being comfortable with what Northwestern was doing. And then at some point that turns from, 100% those two things to, 50-50 or more the injury, but we don't know yet where he's going to be physically. And let me just spoil the surprise for you. He's going to tell us like, I'll be ready to play. I'll be able to play. I'll be good to go. Will that be true? I don't know. He will be telling us that before he has picked up a football, because I am quite confident they're not going to have him throwing this week. Like they are going to have him resting it and icing it and treating it and not trying to get started too soon. Like take a week and try and get it better. Adam Stewart, I'm sure the trainer is going to be working with him a whole heck of a lot this week on everything he can do to make that heal up as quickly as possible. And then, see where you are next week and do as best as you can with wherever it is at that point. But, we will get told right up until the game kicks off. No, he'll be good to go. He's fine. We believe in Justin. It'll be fine. So whether that's true or not, I guess we'll find out on January 1st.
The last part there, will the defense play more press coverage next week against Clemson? I'm going through my mind, like, do you tell Marcus Williamson and those guys, would it be a bad idea to play zone? Because then they'd be looking in the backfield. And that's when bad things happen to Marcus Hooker and Marcus Williamson. Or do you leave it man coverage? That way they are more focused on the receivers. But then when you do that, again, that leaves them not seeing the quarterback and Trevor Lawrence able to take off, and he could be running right behind them and they wouldn't know it. So that's why I think, Tom, you mix it all up, and as you said, see what works.
Yeah, there's not going to be one thing that works. They're just going to kind of do a little bit of everything, and a bunch of it's not going to work. And Clemson's going to score a bunch of points, and just sort of make your peace with the fact that this is going to be a little bit like a basketball game where like sometimes the other team's going to make a three, and that's just you're going to have to deal with that. make your peace with it in advance that this is not going to be Ohio State winning by a shutout and move on, because they're going to give up some points. Clemson is a pretty good football team, and from Ohio State's point of view, they just have to outscore them. The more, this is an incredibly stupid thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. The more points Ohio State scores, the better chance they have to win. Like, that's just, they can't. If Ohio State scores less than 30 points, there's probably virtually zero chance they win the game. If they score more than 40, it's like, okay, they probably are better than a 50-50 chance to win at that point. It's a matter of where from 30 to 45 they are. And if they top 50, you got to feel pretty darn good about it. But they are not going to hold Clemson at 21 points. Sorry.
So the more points, the better the chance of winning. This, I do not like the analytics being brought into this show, Tom. You know how I feel about it. I don't understand it. I can't grasp it. I don't know. Is 1.78 good? It's like, I don't know what the metric is. So you're saying more points leads to, Tom, I quit high school so I would not have to take math classes. So let's just talk sports, please.
This is Tony's ready to rip another statistics textbook in half. It's again, like, this is incredibly stupid. But if you tell me Ohio State scores 40 points, I think there's a decent chance Ohio State wins the game. If you tell me Ohio State scores 35, I'm like, and if you tell me Ohio State scores 28, it's like, nope. Then they lost by 2 touchdowns. It's because
we do know Ohio State's record against Clemson when they score 30 or more points, and it's not all that great.
It's not fantastic. Yes, the only team that Ohio State has lost to when scoring 35 or more points is Clemson. So, and Ohio State has not found tremendous success against Clemson scoring less than 35 points either. So, not sure there's a long track record of success in either place. Next one from @Riverfront76. Gerd, I'll let you take this one. Is Dabo the most punchable coach the Buckeyes have ever faced?
As media, we are impartial in terms of punchable faces. We did the last show speak for about 15 minutes on Brett Bielema. So I don't know if that would factor, but no, I would never call for any violence against any coach or player. Tom, sports information departments, what do you think there?
Certainly none that we've interacted with. They're all great. Yeah, it was funny. I had Matt Conley from the State newspaper on Tuesday's Morning Scoop, and afterwards he tweeted he had been on 2 Ohio State podcasts, and his takeaway from the conversations with those 2 hosts is that Ohio State fans don't particularly care for Dabo Swinney, so that's good. That was paying attention during our podcast, yes, because yes, that has been the consistent message is Ohio State fans do not seem to care for Dabo Swinney. And there was a poll that he tweeted out that Ohio State fans had voted that they hated Dabo more than Jim Harbaugh, which is probably somewhat a function of it's this week and somewhat a function of they haven't beaten Dabo and they haven't lost to Harbaugh. But if you're in that conversation with Ohio State fans, if you're in the neighborhood of Jim Harbaugh, that is your Q score is not super high.
Well, and you're asking Ohio State fans, who do you hate more, Santa or Krampus? So,
next one from @Bucknutter2020. Rayshawn Davis possibilities. Rayshawn Davis, the 2021 linebacker from Mater Dei High School in California, not Mater Dei, Mater Dei. He is a top 50 player, like not a 5-star, but a borderline 5-star prospect. He has. Our Bill Green and some other guys on the Buckeye Scoop staff have been telling people for months he's not signing with LSU. He's not signing with LSU on early signing day, and he's going to decommit from LSU. He did both of those things, and then now it's a matter of will he come to Ohio State or will he stay out west, go to USC, possibly Arizona State. If the relationships went out, it sounds like it's going to be Ohio State, and if staying close to home wins out, it's going to be USC. But for Al Washington to have them in this spot at this point in the recruiting cycle during a year when people could not visit, and California is a long way from Ohio, so that is not an easy trip to make. They couldn't have official visits this year. That's a real strong testament to Al Washington's ability to sell the Ohio State program and make that in Columbus an attractive place to be.
I wrote on the message board the other night, I think Monday night, that if Rayshawn Davis was smart enough to come to his senses and leave the LSU, decommit from LSU, that you would think you would choose Ohio State over USC, but of course, being a local product. Although now, Tom, since nobody has been able to go anywhere, you wonder if more kids are like, I need to get out of state. Like, I just need to go somewhere. And maybe that would help Ohio State as well. But I think right now, 51-49 USC.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere in that 50-50 range.
Yeah.
Next one from @Zadiah. Sir.
Fair point. I'm not going to argue with that. It's a little aggressive, and I don't like being attacked by the listeners. But you know what? They are the byproduct of this show, basically. And so I would agree. What do you think, Chief?
I think it's pretty insulting to call the listeners the byproduct of the show. I think the listeners are kind of the central focus of the show. I'm not doing this to talk to you. I mean, I don't want to. So yes, we are here for you. So even if your question is just sir, yes, good question, Chief. Next one from @Bubba_Bucket. Why is the defense regressing under Kerry Coombs? I mean, I think the defense is regressing under Kerry Coombs to a certain degree because they don't have the players they had last year. I mean, you don't have a Chase Young up front. You don't have a Jeff Okudah as a corner. Shaun Wade has not been quite as good as Jeff Okudah was last year. You don't have a Jordan Fuller at the back end. You don't have a Jamin Arnett as the second corner. I mean, this year's Ohio State defense is just flatly not as talented as last year's Ohio State defense. They've been doing, I mean, the defense has been, I don't think it has regressed throughout the year. I think the defense was pretty darn good against Northwestern. I think the defense was pretty darn good against Michigan State. Now, we'll find out how much of that was a result of opponents, but they were pretty darn good for the first half against Indiana. They had one bad half against Indiana. They have had, they had a couple drive, some of the Penn State touchdowns were just kind of like, yep, tip your hat. Like, if Jahan Dotson wants to turn into Superman, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about that. But, they've been fine. They're not fantastic. They're not as good as last year's defense, but they're okay. And I don't think I would put a ton of that on Kerry Coombs' shoulders.
No, and you look at the guys they lost, because you throw in Chase Young to that pass defense, and he's a Pro Bowler. He's starting in the NFL. Jordan Fuller is an NFL starter. Damon Arnett is an NFL starter until he was injured, but he started 6 games this year. Jeff Okudah, before he got injured, started 6 games this year. So they lost 4 guys to the NFL who are all starting in the NFL, and that's not just something that you can just ignore. Also, Tom, I don't know how much improvement there is anywhere this year. Like so much is just treading water and just trying to stay afloat, let alone coming back better and being better. And so, yeah, it's the defense is worse because the talent is worse. But we were talking before the show, how much better is Justin Fields than last year? It's you can't fault anybody, I don't think, for not being better this year than they were last year, or struggling this year in terms of guys have been in and out of the program. They've been just the ups and downs emotionally. So I don't think you can just point fingers and blame, Kerry Coombs for a defense being worse. And that's why it's also, I try to be somewhat fair to like Jim Harbaugh and stuff this year, because it's 2020, and how much do you want to blame somebody for something that goes awry this year? Although with him, it's been going awry for a while, and we've established that. But the defense regressing, you lose talent, and the pandemic has just thrown a wrench in everything in terms of player development.
Yeah, I mean, everyone sort of gets an incomplete for this year.
Yeah.
If you're grading people, it's just there's been so many different things that have happened, and everyone's sort of on these different. It's like Clemson's gotten to do things a certain way, and Ohio State's gotten to do things a slightly different way, and teams in the Pac-12 have gotten even less stuff. And then the SEC's been up more kind of where Clemson is in terms of when they could play, how consistently they got to play throughout the course of the season, that they had a semi-normal camp and a semi-normal season versus the really disjointed mess that the Big Ten was. I mean, this is a year when I think everyone kind of gets a little bit of a mulligan. to some degree. And
unless you're Bo Pelini.
Unless you're, well, but Bo Pelini had a fairly normal season, and it was so extremely bad for so extremely many different reasons. And yeah, I mean, I think during a normal year, Bo Pelini probably would have been a little bit better because he would not have had as many guys, opting out and all of that. But Bo Pelini, even if you curve Bo Pelini's grade up, it's still about an F- on the year, so that still probably gets you fired. But from Ohio State's perspective, let's see where it is next year. I mean, it's going to be a very different year again next year. You're losing pretty much your whole linebacking core. You're probably losing Shaun Wade. You're losing probably a couple of those key names along the defensive line. Like, it's going to be another kind of rebuilding job on the defense next year, but you're going to have a bunch of starters back too. You're going to have Cam Brown back. You're going to have Seven Banks back. You're going to have Josh Proctor back. You're going to have Marcus Hooker back, Zach Harrison, maybe one of the guys in the inside if they're real lucky. Maybe you get Togiai back or Haskell Garrett back if they're real lucky. But I mean, there's plenty of talent on that team, and they'll figure it out. And if next year looks like a disaster, then okay, then you can have the Kerry Coombs conversation then. But it's probably very, very early to have that conversation right now.
What's a disaster next year record-wise for Ohio State? 9-4?
Yeah, I mean, I think next year is going to be a step back. I would not expect Ohio State to be in the college football playoff next year, just with first-time starting quarterback, redshirt freshman or true freshman starting quarterback, and a rebuilt defense. And you're losing one of your tackles and one of your guards and your center, and you're losing. I mean, three starters in the offensive line is a lot. You're losing, presumably Trey Sermon. You're losing, at least one of your two of your top three tight ends at least. I mean, there's a lot that's going to get rebuilt next year, in addition to all of the defensive guys I mentioned earlier. So yeah, I think, a disaster next year is an 8-4 regular season. I mean, without going through the schedule line by line,
we've got time to do that.
Yeah, maybe they lose the Oregon game in two Big Ten games. 9-3 regular season. Like, I could see that 9-3, 10-2, somewhere in there probably. If they're 11-1 next year in the regular season, either the Big Ten is atrocious or like Ryan Day has really, really got this thing rolling.
And either could be the case.
And again, like this is a reason why everyone's going to spend the next 10 days or 9 days, whatever it is now, stressed about, how's this matchup going to go against Clemson? How it's going to happen? Like, just Ohio State is back in the playoff. Please enjoy this. Like, with as much crap as has happened this season, and as there was a decent chunk, there was a month period where it was like, there is not going to be an Ohio State football season. And a whole bunch of stuff has happened, and nothing has gone quite according to plan, but there was an Ohio State football season. They won the Big Ten, and now they're in the college football playoff. Do not be the person who's like, if they don't win the national championship, this season's a failure. Like, just show some awareness of the world around you. Enjoy the fact that Ohio State is in the college football playoff. Enjoy that. And if they lose to Clemson by 17 points, like, that's fine. It's okay. Like, it has been a year. It has been a year for all of us. It has been a year for everyone in that program, more so than you. Like, just, it's going to be fine. Like, and if they win, wonderful. That's terrific. We'll all enjoy going to the national championship game, watching the national championship game. Like, that's fine. But this is a year to just take a step back, have a little perspective on everything that has gone into getting to this point, and appreciate the effort that all the players and coaches from Ohio State and a whole lot of other programs put into making this season get to this point, despite the best efforts of some folks who are in charge of running the sport.
Well, and I'm also say Ohio State loses to Clemson. You can already see the tweets from the national writers or the Chicago Tribune writers saying, "This is what you fought to come back to. This is why you wanted to come back, just to lose to Clemson again." You can already, those miserable people are going to be out there. So yeah, that maybe if that should give you an incentive for Ohio State. That's all I'm saying.
Well, just like let's think about the company you want to keep in terms of your online presence. Do you want to be in the company of those people and be the look at these losers, or do you want to just say, you know what? They did not win the national championship, and that's okay. You know how many teams do not win the national championship every year? All but one. So during a normal year, 129 teams do not win the national championship. This year, 4 didn't play, so it's 126 didn't win the national championship. Like, yeah, it's okay to just watch football and enjoy it. That's okay. That is an okay thing to do, especially given all of the,
Yep.
This is me gesturing vaguely to everything else in the world. All of that stuff. Yep. It's okay.
Yeah, and that'll do it, Tom. We've done it. That's 2 shows in a row, bunch of questions and answers. I always enjoy these because, Tom, for one, it's easy, but for 2, it lets us know what's the talk, what are people thinking, what are they concerned about, and then it gives us a chance to talk about it. And so that's why I like it. So, Tom, do you have anything to say? Who's on the morning scoop tomorrow?
So tomorrow is being Thursday morning is Ross Fulton. Him on to break down his story about the OSU Northwestern game, what Ohio State did, why they had so much success in the running game. Just a little bit of a peek ahead to Clemson, but we're going to have him back on again next week as well to talk about more looking forward to the Clemson game. So that's that is my Christmas Eve present to you. That'll drop Thursday morning. Usually, I'll probably drop it Wednesday night. We usually drop it Wednesday night. So you'll have that to look forward to. Great conversation with Ross as always. You will learn a lot, and we're getting close to getting in a car and driving to, hopefully getting into an SUV and not a car. That's going to be a long drive if we're in a subcompact. So
the Geo Metro is ready to go. Yeah, I forgot that you had planned out this week in terms of the morning show. So I was hoping to catch you off guard, but no, you are ready and you are prepared. And so kudos to you. That's a first.
that I'm prepared, or that you're giving me kudos? Maybe both.
Yes.
And then later this afternoon, get to cover a basketball game, go shoot some photos of the basketball team playing Rutgers tonight. So that'll be fun. So lots of fun stuff to look forward to. And then, hey, Friday's Christmas, and you have that to look forward to. Like, this is going to be a fun couple weeks. And we always plug Buckeye Scoop, but if you would have thought about becoming a member and you haven't asked, and you've been the idiot who has not thought to ask someone for Christmas, well, this would be a great time to give it a try for a month, because guess what that month is going to include? Christmas, all the excitement of Bowl Week. Tony and I are going to be down in New Orleans for a number of days, churning out a ton of content. That'll be all at beatbuckeyescoop.com. And we also have, in that first month, if they beat Clemson, national championship. So you get both college football playoff games potentially in that first month of membership. Give it a try. Brand new site, just launched about a week ago, I think. And really, really fantastic site. Great interaction, tons of fun interaction with the staff, all of our members. It has been a blast to be a part of it. And if you have thought about becoming a member, this would be a great time to do it.
Absolutely. Well said, Tom. That will do it. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.